security, roads, a future for our state and our country. And we're here to let U.S. Bank know that it's time for banks to pay their fair share.
Big banks crashed our economy. Now they need to help clean it up. Yeah. We are here today to tell them they need to pay their fair share and stop the cuts on our communities and health care.
The big banks accepted debt forgiveness from us. And then they turned their backs on the very people who have suffered from their greed and their mismanagement.
We are 99%. We are the 99%. We are the 99%.
I don't like banks much anymore. I used to trust them. I'd bring my money to them. Then suddenly they started to think it was their money instead of mine. We bailed them out last couple of years ago. It's time they stop stealing our homes.
Who got the money, money? They got the money, money. They got the money, money. We got the bill.
Our problems began in November 2008 in the wake of the bad mortgage loan crisis, which contributed to the sudden closure of the hospice that Malcolm was a chaplain for. We have watched the only home my daughter has known slip through our fingers. She's had to drop out of school. And all the while, we're being told by Wells Fargo not to worry, just redo the paperwork. We've redone the paperwork half a dozen times. All we know is that we're being foreclosed on, and we haven't seen anything change since 2008. And right now, we do have the money with our combined incomes to pay for a remodified mortgage, but we can't seem to talk to anybody to get that to happen.
The delegation tried to go in.
The delegation tried to go in.
The bank and the street and the skyways have been shut down.
And the skyways have been shut down.
They would rather shut down the bank than meet with us.
They disrespecting us again.
They're disrespecting us again.
And we have to do something about this.
We have to do something about this.
It doesn't stop here.
It doesn't stop here.
We won't stop until they hear us.
We won't stop until they hear us.
Here's what we learned.
Here's what we learned.
It's easier to shut down Wells Fargo
It's easier to shut down Wells Fargo
than to get a conversation about modifying a mortgage.
than to get a conversation about modifying a mortgage.
That's not right.
That's not right. That's not right. That's not right.
Wells Fargo, they're the largest predatory lender here in Minneapolis on the north side, and they all the families that have been displaced from the homes have cost the Minneapolis Public Schools $28 million alone. And that money is really needed. We have oversized classrooms. We don't have enough teachers in there. And the first thing that they go and do, and legislators cut the budgets to the schools.
I started work for what is now Wells Fargo 53 years ago this month. You can't have every corporate executive officer making $40 or $50 million a year. There's no sense to it.
Corporations need to start paying their fair share of taxes. Right now, the way it's set up, when 68% of corporations don't pay taxes, and I work 3 jobs and I'm tired of paying their fair share as well as mine. Where are the jobs they're creating? They're getting tax breaks. My nephew's been looking for a job since he graduated over a year ago. It's hard. It's hard to get a minimum wage job for a lot of these kids.
Man, I applied for so many jobs. I'd call, I did many things that normal people would do, and I don't get the job.
The vast majority of my caseload were people in their 50s and 60s, and they were losing their homes, they were developing serious diseases, their families were breaking up, and now we're seeing that employers are actually saying in their ads, if you are not currently employed, do not bother to apply. And when we have 14 million people in this country, at a minimum, that shouldn't even apply for jobs, it's just, I mean, that's just nuts. It's perverse, it's obscene. So corporate America is making out like bandits, and ordinary, everyday people are really getting screwed.
We're concerned about jobs, or we're concerned about health, or we're concerned about education. That's all related to the kind of system and the corporate power and control that's happening, that's running us to the brink of catastrophe.
This movement, it's capturing and gathering the energy of the very thing that Dr. King taught us, to stand up to government and say, you've got to regulate, you've got to stop runaway consumer capitalism, and make a commonwealth again. We no longer have a commonwealth in this country. It's not a democracy, at least not the way that the founders envisioned it.
And this should be a lesson for all of us. This is the way we can change our bad governments in overseas and everywhere. This is the way to do it, democracy.
I think it's part of people in the United States realizing that they've lost power and control, and they're gaining it back.